I looked at my bank statement again, each transaction a reminder of their contempt. 20 years of hard work, of proving myself. Yet they still saw me as beneath them. Today I'm choosing dignity over their approval. Some debts aren't worth the cost to your soul. Stay in the hospital, we don't want you here. My daughter said it like she was throwing away trash. Cold, final. I was lying in the intensive care unit, tubes in my arms, fighting for my life after a massive heart attack. And she was worried about her husband's birthday party. They thought I was a broken old man, a walking checkbook ready for one last withdrawal. They thought the stress would kill me. They were about to learn that this old mechanic doesn't just fix engines. I dismantle them. If this story finds you, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone in this world. My name is Michael Harrison, and this is the story of how I lost my family and found myself. The smell of my auto shop used to be my favorite thing. Grease, gasoline, honest work. It was the smell of Harrison's garage. 40 years of my life built into those walls. It was the smell of security. Lately, the air felt thick, heavy, hard to breathe. I'm 65. My hands used to be steady. Now they tremble when I hold a wrench. The fatigue is a heavy blanket. I couldn't shake it off. I was tired, so tired, and I knew exactly why. Stress, Michael. Dr. Lee had warned me a month ago. He tapped my chart with his pen. His face was serious. Your blood pressure is through the roof, he said. You can't keep pulling 12-hour days. Your body is screaming at you. I rubbed my temples. The headache was already starting. I know, Doc. I just need to get through this busy season. You need to slow down. Retire. Retire. The word felt like a cruel joke. How could I retire? The bills kept coming. Faster. Higher. They started piling up 5 years ago, right after Linda passed away. The day my world truly ended. Losing Linda broke me. She was the heart of our family. The warmth in our home. When she died, the house felt too big, too quiet, too empty. I remember sitting in her hitter chair, just staring at the wall. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I was drowning in grief. Then my daughter, Jessica, moved back in. My only child. I can't let you be alone, Dad, she had said, hugging me tightly. Her voice was soft, full of comfort. I'm here to take care of you. I was so grateful. I clung to her. She was the last piece of family I had left. I wanted her to have the life Linda and I dreamed for her. I thought she was saving me. I didn't realize she was just the beginning of the nightmare. It wasn't long before Mark needed her. Mark was Jessica's new husband. He was handsome, charming, always dressed in suits that cost more than my monthly mortgage. He was also, as he put it, between ventures. Mark was a man of big ideas, grand plans, and very empty pockets. He had a taste for luxury his resume couldn't support. I tried to welcome him. I tried to believe his promises. The next big deal was just around the corner. He always said that. I wanted Jessica to be happy. If she loved Mark, I would try to love him too, but something about the way he smiled never reached his eyes. So I let them take over my home. The quiet sanctuary Linda and I had built became their headquarters. My savings account, that became their venture capital. The quiet evenings I used to spend reading were replaced by Mark's loud conference calls. He paced the living room, talking about investors and synergy. Jessica changed too. She started complaining. The neighborhood wasn't upscale enough. The furniture was outdated. My cooking was too simple. They didn't help around the house. They didn't contribute to the groceries. Instead, they needed loans. It started small. A little here for Mark's new website. A little there for a networking trip to Miami. It's just temporary, Dad, Jessica would say, twirling her hair. Once Mark's business takes off, we'll pay you back. With interest. I always said yes. How could I say no to my little girl? Then came the Mercedes. A gleaming black sedan parked in my driveway. We needed to maintain appearances, Michael, Mark explained, puffing out his chest. You have to look successful to be successful. I paid for it all, every dime, and the more I gave, the more they took. I worked longer hours at the shop. I was pulling double shifts. My body ached. My energy was gone. I was 65, doing the work of 3 men. I was drowning, and they didn't even notice. They were too busy planning their next vacation. I was fueling their fake success, while my own life was falling apart. And then, that Tuesday afternoon, the stress finally won. I was in my office at the shop, staring at a stack of invoices, the numbers blurred, red ink everywhere. We were behind, way behind. A crushing weight settled onto my chest. Heavy, suffocating, like an engine block pressing down on my ribs. The pain shot down my left arm. Sharp, burning. I knew what it was. I tried to stand up, to call for help. My knees buckled. I collapsed onto the cold concrete floor. The invoices scattered around me like fallen leaves. The last thing I saw was Robert, my foreman and oldest friend, rushing into the office. His face was pale with terror. "Mike! Hang on, Mike." Then everything went dark. I woke up to a rhythmic beeping. Electronic, cold, a stark reminder that I was still alive, even if I felt hollowed out, broken. The smell of the shop was gone, replaced by the sharp, sterile odor of antiseptic. I was in the intensive care unit. Tubes ran into my arms. Monitors were taped to my skin. An oxygen mask was strapped tightly over my face. My chest felt like it had been hit by a truck. "You're awake, Mr. Harrison." A kind-faced nurse checked the machines. Her voice was soft but professional. "You gave everyone quite a scare," she said. "A significant heart attack. You're lucky your friend acted so quickly." "Robert, right?" I nodded weakly. "Robert saved my life." "You need rest now," she continued. "The doctor will be in shortly." I was alive, but I felt fragile, weak, like a pane of glass ready to shatter. I lay there for 2 days, drifting in and out of consciousness. The silence of the hospital was strange, a stark contrast to the chaos of my home. I thought about Linda, how she always worried about me working too hard. "Michael," she used to say, "the money isn't worth your health." I didn't listen, and I thought about Jessica. Where was she? Had Robert called her? Did she know her father almost died? Why wasn't she here? Lying in the ICU, I felt a strange sense of isolation. It was quiet. No one was asking me for money. No one was complaining about the furniture. It was the first real break I'd had in 5 years. It was peaceful, and that realization terrified me. My own home was more stressful than the intensive care unit, but the silence from Cesic was deafening. On the 3rd day, my phone buzzed on the bedside table. I fumbled for it. My hands were weak, clumsy. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. A wave of relief washed over me. Weak, but persistent. She knew. She was worried. Finally, I answered, my voice a dry rasp. The effort sent a spike of pain through my chest. "Hello? Dad?" Finally. "Where have you been?" "I've been calling." Her voice wasn't worried. It was sharp, annoyed, impatient, like I was late for dinner. My stomach tightened. Something was wrong. "Jessica," I whispered. "I'm in the hospital, intensive care." There was a brief pause. I waited for the gasp, the questions, the "Oh my God, Dad, are you okay?" It didn't come. "The hospital?" "Well, that's terribly inconvenient," she huffed, as if I had deliberately chosen to have a heart attack just to spite her. Inconvenient. My near-death experience was inconvenient for her. "Listen," she continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "You need to get out of there. Tomorrow is Mark's birthday." I stared at the phone, confused. Maybe the medication was making me hallucinate. "What? Mark's birthday?" she repeated. Slower and louder, as if I were stupid. "It's his 30th. We're having a huge party here, at the house." She paused, then added the kicker. "All his important contacts are coming. Investors. It's crucial networking. We need the house ready." They were having a party, while I was lying in the ICU. "Jessica, I can't." I struggled to speak. The oxygen mask hissed. "I had a heart attack. I nearly died. The doctor said I need complete rest. I can't just leave. Stop being dramatic, Dad." "You always do this," she snapped. Her voice was cold, unrecognizable. "We need help with the preparations. The cleaning, the catering setup." She wanted me to clean the house, the day after I nearly died. But that wasn't the worst part. And we need you to call the bank, she continued, her tone brisk and businesslike. Authorize the payment for the caterer's deposit. It's $3,000. The audacity winded me more than the heart attack had. I was tethered to machines that were keeping me alive, and she wanted me to pay for her husband's lavish party. $3,000 for appetizers. I can't, I repeated. Firmer this time. A flicker of anger sparked in the emptiness of my chest. I'm not feeling well. I'm sick. The response was instantaneous. A venomous explosion that cracked the quiet of the ICU room. You are so selfish, she shouted. The volume was so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. This is important to Mark, she shrieked. It's his career, our future. If you can't even do this one simple thing for us, after everything we do for you, what you do for me, I interrupted. The disbelief morphed into rage. The weak old man was fading away. Yes, living in that cramped house, keeping you company, managing your messy life, she screamed. The entitlement was staggering. Then came the final blow. The words that shattered my heart completely. If you won't help us when we need you, then don't you dare come home. Stay in the hospital. We don't want you here. The line went dead. She had hung up on me. I lowered the phone slowly. The beep of the heart monitor seemed louder now, faster. A nurse rushed in, alerted by the spike in my heart rate. Mr. Harrison, are you all right? Your blood pressure... I couldn't answer. I just stared at the ceiling. The realization hit me harder than the heart attack itself. My daughter, the little girl I loved more than life itself, the one who used to ride on my shoulders and believed I could fix anything, was gone. In her place was a stranger, cold, cruel, entitled. They didn't care if I lived or died. They only cared about the money. My hand trembled as I opened her contact information. I stared at her name, Jessica. The memory of her voice rose in my ears. Don't you dare come home. A cold resolve settled in my chest, hardening the pain into something else. Something sharp and powerful. The fog of denial and obligation I had been living under for 5 years finally lifted. I pressed the button, blocked her number. I'm fine, I told the nurse. My voice was suddenly clear. Strong. In fact, I haven't felt this good in years. If they wanted the house, they could have it, for now. But I wasn't going to be their doormat, or their bank account. I was going to take back what was mine. And when I did, I was going to turn their comfortable, entitled lives into a nightmare. I spent the next week in the hospital. The doctors stabilized my heart, adjusted my medications, insisted I rest. Physically, I was healing. Emotionally, the wound was deep, festering, but it was also clarifying. The silence from Jessica was absolute. No calls to the hospital desk. No texts. No visits. It confirmed what I already knew. She meant what she said. I was alone. Or so I thought. Robert was the only one who came. He visited every day, bringing me clean clothes and updates on the shop. He was a big man. Quiet. Fiercely loyal. We had known each other since high school. He was the brother I never had. On the 4th day, I finally told him. I recounted the phone call, my voice shaking with suppressed rage. Robert listened, his face growing darker with every word. He crushed the paper coffee cup in his hand. She told you not to come home while you were in the ICU, he growled. His knuckles cracked. That's not just selfish, Michael. That's heartless. It's Mark, I said, trying to make sense of it. He's turned her into this. She was never like this before him. Maybe, Robert said skeptically. But she's an adult, Mike. She made that call. He leaned forward. His eyes were dark with anger. They had the party, Mike. I closed my eyes. I figured as much. I drove by your place, Robert continued, his voice tight. Cars parked all over the street. Loud music looked like a circus. They didn't even have the decency to cancel it. The image burned in my mind. My house. Linda's house, turned into a playground for Mark's fake friends. How did they pay for it? I asked, though I already dreaded the answer. Robert looked down at his hands. That's the thing, Mike. It gets worse. They came down to the shop the day after you collapsed, Robert said. His voice was low, heavy with disgust. Jessica demanded access to the business account, said she needed to handle expenses while you were incapacitated. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Did you let her? I tried to stop her, Mike. I told her only you could authorize withdrawals, but she knows the passwords. She threatened to fire me if I didn't comply. He sighed. She took $5,000 out, cash. I nodded slowly. I had given her the passwords years ago. For emergencies. I never thought my own near-death experience would be the emergency she used to throw a birthday bash for her parasitic husband. $5,000. Gone. Just like that. It's not just the money, Mike, Robert continued, his expression grim. They've been letting Mark manage the shop this week. My blood ran cold. Mark, managing my shop? He doesn't know a carburetor from a catalytic converter, Robert said, shaking his head. He's been rude to customers, messed up orders, and he fired Kevin. Kevin was my best mechanic, a young man I had been mentoring for years. He was like a son to me. He fired Kevin, I asked, the shock hitting me like a physical blow. Said Kevin questioned his authority. Robert explained, Mike, they aren't just spending your money. They are actively destroying the legacy you spent your life building. They weren't just leeches, they were vandals. And I had a feeling they were just getting started. A sharp, painful mini-conflict arose the next morning. A young woman from the hospital's finance department stopped by my room. She looked nervous. She held a clipboard tightly to her chest. Mr. Harrison, I'm sorry to bother you, she said, her voice hesitant. We seem to be having an issue processing your insurance. My stomach dropped. An issue? What kind of issue? The premiums, she said, avoiding eye contact. They haven't been paid in 3 months. 3 months. The realization dawned on me with horrifying clarity. When Linda died, I was a mess. I couldn't handle the paperwork, the bills, the reminders of the life we shared. Jessica had offered to take over the household finances, the bills, the insurance, the taxes. I'll handle everything, Dad, she had promised. You just focus on grieving. I'd gratefully handed over the responsibility. I transferred a large sum into the household account every month, specifically for these bills. Where did the money go? There must be a mistake, I told the woman, my voice trembling. She shook her head sadly. I'm afraid not, Mr. Harrison. Your policy is currently suspended. They had been spending the bill money. They had risked my health insurance, my life insurance, everything. While I was working myself to death to provide for them, they couldn't even be bothered to pay the bills that kept me safe. They didn't just want my money. They were willing to risk my life for it. When the finance woman left, I turned to Rob. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was hardening. I need you to dig deeper, I said, my voice cold and hard. Check everything. The personal savings, the retirement accounts, the business accounts, everything. Robert nodded, his expression grim. I was hoping you'd say that. Dirk already started. You left the room, a man on a mission. I sat there, the silence of the hospital room pressing in on me. How deep did the betrayal go? I was about to find out. If this story has your heart racing, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every click helps us keep uncovering stories that deserve to be heard. Robert returned the next day. His face was pale. He sat down heavily in the chair beside my bed. He was holding a thick folder of bank statements. I braced myself. How bad is it, Robert? It's bad, Mike, he said, spreading the statements out on the small bedside table. The numbers swam before my eyes. Withdrawals, transfers, hundreds of them. The household account is empty, drained every month. I expected that, but what he said next stopped my already damaged heart. The savings account, Robert said, his voice trembling with rage. The one you and Linda saved for retirement. The one that should have had over $150,000 in it. He looked me straight in the eye. It's down to almost nothing. They took it all, Mike. $150,000. Gone. I thought about the long hours, the grease under my fingernails, the sacrifices Linda and I had made, the vacations we never took, the dreams we put on hold, all so our daughter could live a life of luxury with a man who despised me. I felt sick to my stomach. The betrayal was vast, overwhelming, but that wasn't the twist that truly shattered me. Robert pulled out another folder. This one thinner, more official looking. I called Mr. Evans, your estate lawyer, Robert said, his voice low and urgent. Mr. Evans was an old friend of the family, a man I trusted implicitly. I know you trust him, Mike, and I had a bad feeling. He was worried about you. He paused, taking a deep breath. He said Jessica and Mark contacted him a few weeks ago. Why? I asked, the dread pooling in my stomach. They started the process of transferring the deed to the house and the ownership of the shop into their names. I stared at him. The blood drained from my face. The room seemed to tilt. How? I whispered. I never agreed to that. I never signed anything. The power of attorney, Robert said, pointing to a document in the folder. His voice was laced with regret. The one you signed right after Linda died. You were grieving, Mike. You were a mess. You gave Jessica full control, remember? You trusted her completely. You wanted her to be able to handle things if you couldn't. It all clicked into place. The puzzle pieces formed a horrifying picture. They weren't just entitled leeches. They were predators. They were actively stealing my life. The mismanagement of the shop. The draining of the accounts. It wasn't just incompetence. It was intentional. They were trying to make it look like I was failing, justifying their takeover. They were waiting for me to die, or perhaps hoping this heart attack would finish the job. And when I did, I didn't die quickly enough. When I became an inconvenience, they discarded me. The betrayal was so vast, so calculated, it left me breathless. This wasn't just about money or a birthday party. This was about my legacy, my dignity, my very existence. They were trying to erase me. I felt a sudden sharp dilemma, a war raging in my heart. Should I just let it go, change the will, kick them out, and try to salvage what was left of my life in peace? The stress of a fight could kill me. Dr. Lee's warnings echoed in my ears. I looked at Robert, the fear evident in my eyes. If I fight them, Robert, it will be ugly. The stress, my heart might not be able to take it. Robert leaned forward, his eyes blazing with a protective fury. If you don't fight them, Mike, you have nothing left to live for, he said, his voice rough with emotion. They took it all. They took Linda's memory. They took your life's work. They took your dignity. He put a hand on my shoulder. Now we take it back. His words solidified my resolve. The fear evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard determination. They wanted a war. I would give them one. I called Mr. Evans. He was a sharp, elderly man. He had known Linda and me for decades. Mr. Evans, I need your help, I said, sitting up in bed. The determination fueled me. My voice was stronger now. Michael, I was hoping you would call, he said, his voice relieved. Robert filled me in. I am so sorry. I need to revoke the power of attorney. Immediately, I said, and I need to secure my assets. Everything. Mr. Evans was efficient, but cautious. He warned me about the legal implications. Michael, revoking the POA is simple, he explained, his voice calm and measured. We can have the paperwork drawn up and notarized within the hour. I'll send a courier to the hospital. But recovering the stolen funds and evicting them will be a long, arduous process, he warned. They are family. They have established residency in your home. The courts tend to be complicated in these matters. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. I need to warn you, Michael. This will be ugly. They will fight back. They will try to paint you as a vindictive, unstable old man, he continued. Perhaps even claim you are mentally incompetent due to the heart attack. A legal battle like this can permanently destroy whatever relationship you have left with your daughter. I thought about Jessica's voice on the phone. Don't you dare come home. The relationship was already destroyed. She had destroyed it. They stopped being family when they tried to steal my life while I was lying on a hospital bed, I said, my voice cold and hard. We need to move fast. I understand, Mr. Evans said. I'll start the process of filing a lawsuit for the recovery of the stolen funds. Financial exploitation and fraud. Good, I said. But that's not enough. I want them gone, and I want them to feel the pain they caused me. I want the nightmare to start immediately. Mr. Evans was silent for a moment. Then I heard the faint sound of him shuffling papers. Very well, Michael, he said, his tone shifting from cautious lawyer to strategic ally. Let's discuss the eviction notice. We spent the rest of the week formulating a plan, a three-pronged attack: legal, financial, psychological. Mr. Evans hired a forensic accountant, someone to trace every stolen dime. Robert started quietly securing the shop, changing the locks, redirecting the mail, and I focused on healing, getting stronger, preparing for the battle ahead. Finally, the discharge day arrived. Dr. Lee told me to take it easy, to avoid stress, to hire a home nurse. Avoid an enemy environment, Michael, he warned. Your heart is still very weak. I nodded politely, knowing I was about to walk into a war zone. Robert picked me up. The ride was silent. We were both focused, ready. We didn't go home immediately. We had a few stops to make first. We went to the bank, armed with the revoked POA and the initial findings of the forensic accountant. I sat down with the bank manager, a young man who looked surprised to see me. Mr. Harrison, we heard you were unwell, he said nervously. Your daughter has been handling your affairs. Not anymore, I said, sliding the revoked POA across his desk. I need to freeze all my personal and business accounts. Effective immediately. The manager blinked. Freeze them? Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I said. I canceled every credit card linked to my name, the platinum cards Mark loved so much, the gas cards they used to fuel the Mercedes. Then we went to the cell phone store. I shut down their plans, which were, of course, under my name. The lifeline was officially cut. The parasites were on their own. Now, it was time to go home. Then we drove to my house. My house, the house Linda and I had bought together. As we pulled into the driveway, my stomach tightened. The lawn was littered with the debris of the party, red plastic cups, streamers, empty bottles. The house looked exhausted, abused, violated. My heart hammered against my ribs, but my hands were steady on the door handle. I had spent my life fixing broken things. It was time to fix this. We walked inside. The smell hit us first. Stale beer, cigarette smoke, and something rotting. The living room was a disaster zone. Furniture overturned. Stains covered the carpet Linda had loved. Plates of half-eaten food were everywhere. It looked like a bomb had gone off, a bomb of entitlement and disrespect. Jessica and Mark were sitting on the couch, watching a large TV, one I had bought them last Christmas. They looked up, shocked, their faces slack with disbelief. Dad, Jessica gasped, scrambling to her feet. What are you doing here? No one told us you were coming home. She looked annoyed. I told you we didn't want you back. It's my house, I said, my voice cold and steady. I looked around the room, taking in the destruction. Looks like you had quite the party. Mark stood up, puffing out his chest. He always tried to act tough, but he was soft around the edges, weak, a coward. Look, Michael, we were going to clean up, he said, his tone arrogant and dismissive. We were just taking a break. Then he pointed to the overflowing trash cans. Now that you're back, you can take the trash out. The sheer audacity was staggering. This man who had never worked a day in his life, who was actively trying to steal everything I owned, felt entitled to order me around in my own home. Robert took a step forward, his hands clenched into fists. I put a hand on his arm. Not yet. I'm not here to take the trash out, Mark, I said. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Jessica walked towards me. Her tone shifted from shock to annoyance. Why did you block my number? She demanded. That was really childish. We had important things to discuss. She held up her phone. And my phone isn't working. Did you forget to pay the bill again? You're getting so forgetful, Dad. The insult stung. But I didn't react. I just watched her, and I just tried to order lunch. She continued, her voice rising in frustration. My credit card was declined. It was humiliating. The phone is off, I said, my voice flat. So are the credit cards. The accounts are frozen. Her eyes widened in panic. Mark's face turned pale. Frozen? What do you mean, frozen? Jessica shrieked. You can't do that. That's our money. It's my money, I corrected her. And I did. I walked past her to the hallway. Robert was holding a thick envelope. He handed it to me. "What is this?" Mark demanded, stepping forward aggressively. "This is a formal notice of eviction," I said, handing the envelope to Jessica. "You have 30 days to vacate these premises." Jessica screamed, "Eviction? You can't kick us out. This is my home." "I grew up here." She turned to Mark, her eyes wild with fear. But Mark wasn't afraid. He was smiling, a cruel, triumphant smile. "Besides," Jessica said, echoing his confidence, "you're too late." Mark swaggered forward, a smirk plastered on his face. He truly believed he had won. "That's right, old man," he sneered. "This is our house now. The deed transfer is already in arrears. Thanks to the power of attorney." He leaned in close. His breath smelled of stale alcohol. "You should have just stayed in the hospital and died," he whispered. "It would have made things much simpler." The cruelty of his words was breathtaking. Jessica didn't even flinch. She stood beside him, united in their betrayal. "Is that so?" I asked, my voice quiet but steady. I pulled out another document from the envelope. The revoked POA. "The power of attorney you are referring to was revoked last week," I said, holding it up for them to see. "Any attempt to transfer assets using that document constitutes fraud." Mark's smirk faltered. He snatched the document from my hand, read it. His face turned ashen. "Revoked?" he whispered. "That's impossible. You can't do that." "I already did," I said. "And that's not all." My voice cut through the chaos. "This is also a lawsuit. We are suing you for the recovery of $150,000 fraudulently obtained from my savings, plus damages." Jessica gasped, turning pale. $150,000? Dad, that's a lie. "We just borrowed a little to help us get by." "The bank statements don't lie," I said, my voice ringing with authority. "The forensic accountant traced every dime, the trips, the clothes, the Mercedes." I paused, letting the weight of the accusation settle. "And neither does the police report I filed this morning." The silence that followed was absolute. Mark looked like he was about to be sick. He stumbled back, realization crashing down on him. It wasn't just about losing the house. It was about losing everything. The money, the lifestyle, the freedom. It was all gone. And they were facing jail time. "You can't do this," Mark whispered, his voice trembling. The arrogance completely gone, replaced by sheer terror. "We're family." "Family?" I laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. "Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't abandon you on your deathbed. Family doesn't try to erase you." I looked at the daughter I no longer recognized, the stranger wearing my daughter's face. "I was dying," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "And you were worried about a birthday party." Jessica stared at me, tears streaming down her face, the reality of her actions finally hitting her. The entitlement, the greed, the cruelty. It was all laid bare in the harsh afternoon light. "Dad, I'm sorry," she whispered. "But it was too late. You have 30 days, I repeated. "If you are not out by then, the sheriff will forcibly remove you." I turned and walked away, Robert by my side. I heard Jessica sobbing, Mark cursing, the sound of their nightmare just beginning. The next few weeks were pure chaos. The nightmare I had envisioned for them became a reality. Living in the same house while the eviction process moved forward was unbearable. But I refused to leave. It was my house. I wasn't going to be pushed out. I confined myself to the master bedroom, the only space they hadn't completely contaminated. I put a lock on the door. The first thing to go was the Mercedes. It turned out Mark hadn't made a payment in months. He relied on me to cover it. I didn't. The repo man came and towed it away. I watched from the window as Mark stood on the lawn, screaming threats at the driver. A pathetic display of impotent rage. He looked small, weak, exposed. The facade of success was crumbling. They were desperate. Their investor friends vanished the moment the money dried up. They had no jobs, no income, and now no credit. They were trapped in a house they destroyed, with a man they betrayed. The investigation into the fraud and embezzlement moved forward quickly. Mr. Evans and the forensic accountant built an airtight case. The evidence was overwhelming. The bank records, The testimony from Mr. Evans about the attempted deed transfer, the unauthorized withdrawals from the business account, the unpaid insurance premiums. They were cornered, and they knew it. Jessica tried everything. She cornered me in the kitchen one afternoon. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She looked broken. She begged. She pleaded. She tried to guilt-trip me. Brigham and her mother. Mom would have never done this, she sobbed. She would have forgiven me. She would have wanted us to be a family. Don't you dare bring Linda into this, I warned her, my voice dangerously low, the rage simmering just below the surface. Your mother was kind and generous and loving, I said. She would be ashamed of what you've become. She raised you better than this. That shut her up. She knew I was right. She looked away, the shame evident on her face. She left the kitchen, defeated. The tension in the house turned them against each other. I could hear them fighting at night, their voices sharp and vicious. Mark blamed Jessica for being too greedy, too fast, for pushing me too hard. Jessica blamed Mark for manipulating her, for turning her against me, for ruining her life. The alliance of parasites had crumbled under pressure. There was no honor among thieves. The final act came the day before the eviction deadline. I was at the auto shop with Robert. We had rehired Kevin. He was happy to be back. We were slowly putting the business back together. The stress that had nearly killed me was gone, replaced by a sense of purpose. I had decided to make Robert a full partner. He deserved it. He had stood by me when no one else did. He was family. We were in the office when the front door burst open. Mark stormed in, looking disheveled and desperate. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His eyes were wild. Jessica followed him, her face pale and drawn. She looked terrified. You ruined us. Mark screamed, pointing a shaking finger at me. We have nothing. The lawyers want money we don't have. How could you do this to your own daughter? The hypocrisy was astounding. You did this to yourselves, I said, feeling no pity. Only a profound weariness. I was tired of their drama, tired of their greed. We have a deal for you, Jessica said, her voice trembling. She stepped forward, pushing Mark aside. We'll leave, she pleaded. We'll move out of state. We'll disappear. Just drop the charges. Please, Dad. Don't send us to jail. I can't go to jail. I looked at them, these two people I no longer recognized. They were cornered rats, willing to say anything to save themselves. It's too late for that, I said, my voice final. The case is with the district attorney now. It's out of my hands. The consequences of their actions were finally catching up to them. Mark lunged at me, his eyes wild with rage. You old fool, I'll kill you. But Robert stepped forward, blocking him easily. Robert was a wall of muscle and loyalty. Mark bounced off him like a fly hitting a windshield. The sound of sirens filled the air, growing louder, closer. The police had arrived. The DA had issued arrest warrants based on the evidence we provided. It was over. Two officers walked into the shop, their faces grim, professional. Mark Smith? Jessica Harrison, one of them asked. The next few minutes were a blur. The officers read them their rights. They were handcuffed, led out to the patrol cars. Mark struggled, shouting obscenities, threatening revenge. A coward to the very end, but Jessica was silent. As they led her away, she turned to look at me. Her eyes were filled, not with hatred, but with a devastating realization. The realization of what she had lost, what had thrown away, for a man who never loved her, for a lifestyle she didn't earn. I'm sorry, Daddy, she whispered, the words barely audible over the sirens. Daddy, I hadn't heard her call me that in years. I watched them go, the weight I had been carrying for years finally lifting off my shoulders. It was a painful victory, a victory stained with the blood of a broken family bond. I looked at Robert. He nodded slowly. You did the right thing, Mike. I hoped he was right. The aftermath was quiet. The legal process was swift. The evidence was irrefutable. Mark and Jessica both pleaded guilty. Grand larceny, fraud, elder abuse. Mark, due to the extent of his manipulation and lack of remorse, was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Jessica, due to her cooperation and expression of remorse, received a lighter ladder, 2 years. Justice was served, but it felt hollow. I sold the house on Oak Street. I couldn't live there anymore. Too many painful memories. The walls echoed with the ghosts of the past, the happy memories of Linda, and the nightmare of the last 5 years. I sold the shop to Robert for a very reasonable price. My working days were over. My heart couldn't take it anymore. It was time to retire. For real this time. I moved into a small condo by the lake, far away from the city, far away from the drama. Spent my days fishing, reading, enjoying the silence. I finally had the peace I craved, the peace Linda wanted for me. Months turned into a year. I was healthier, stronger. The color had returned to my face. I found joy in the simple things. The sunrise over the water, the smell of fresh coffee in the morning, the quiet solitude. But sometimes the silence was too loud. I thought about Jessica. I missed her. Not the woman she had become, the monster who screamed at me from the ICU, but the little girl who used to help me wash the car on Saturdays, who used to laugh at my silly jokes, the one who held my hand when she crossed the street. That little girl was gone, and I mourned her loss as much as I mourned Linda. One cold afternoon, I was sitting on my balcony, watching the snow fall on the lake. A letter arrived that day. It was from the correctional facility where Jessica was serving her sentence. I hesitated before opening it. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear what she had to say. I wasn't sure I was ready to face the past. I read the letter standing in my kitchen. It was long, filled with raw emotion. Apologies. Regret. She wrote about how the time in prison had forced her to confront the person she had become. She acknowledged how Mark had manipulated her, but also how she had allowed herself to be manipulated, blinded by greed and entitlement. She wrote about the ICU phone call, saying the memory haunted her, that she was ashamed of her cruelty. She finally understood the magnitude of her betrayal. She didn't ask for money. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She just wanted me to know that she was sorry. I read the letter carefully, feeling a profound sadness for the life she had destroyed, for the family we had lost. I folded the letter, placed it in a drawer, next to an old photograph of Linda and a young Jessica, smiling brightly on a sunny day. A family that no longer existed. I didn't write back. Not yet. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed easily. The trust was gone. The connection was severed. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. And I wasn't ready to start that journey. Maybe I never would be. I walked back to the balcony, looked out at the frozen lake. I was finally free. I had turned their lives into a nightmare. But in doing so, I had reclaimed my own. And as I watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple, I realized that family isn't just about blood. It's about love, respect, loyalty, and sometimes you have to let go of the family you have to find the peace you deserve. I was alone, but I was standing strong. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot because your time matters.